If you experienced a serious problem at work, such as bullying, discrimination, or unfair dismissal, your case might come to an employment tribunal, which is a court of law that deals with employment issues. Tribunals are managed by a specialist employment judge, who is usually assisted by 2 lay members. I met employment judge Lorna Finley in a previous film. I'm now visiting lay member Diane Hill. Diane has a career background in human resources. This experience helps us see things from the perspective of employees and employers. Diane has 20 years' experience acting as a lay member, which is a paid position. This role has led her to work in 2 other courts in addition to the employment tribunal.
My name's Diane Hill. I sit as a lay member in the employment tribunals. I've done this for 20 years, but I also sit in 2 other courts. I sit in the social entitlement chamber and hear appeal cases against disability, living allowance and personal independence payments. As part of my role with the employment tribunal service, I also sometimes sit in the county court as a lay assessor, and in those cases it's where you sit as an advisor to a judge who's hearing an Equality Act case.
Can you tell us more about employment tribunals?
In an employment tribunal, the cases that we hear now are discrimination cases. So what we will see will be that there has been some sort of discrimination against the individual in the workplace. And if it comes to a tribunal, it actually means that in the workplace, the Human Resources Department and the managers haven't been able to resolve those issues. It may be that it's somebody who is claiming race discrimination. It may be that there has been some sort of sexual harassment, disability discrimination, age discrimination, and you need to be able to listen to what those people are telling you and not make judgment. You need to have a very open mind, because if somebody is aggressive or they're shouting at you, yelling at you, you just need to stay calm, be very nice. And although you may be thinking, I would like to deal very differently with this person, you can guarantee that the moment that you decide to let loose, somebody's there with their camera, and next thing you're on Twitter, lay member, let's rip at so-and-so. So it's about being careful with your behaviour, and it's actually a learning point for the employer as well. Although they may have dismissed the person fairly, it doesn't mean to say that they can't learn from what happened so that other employees don't feel aggrieved in the same way.
Did you know what career you wanted to follow when you were at school? What path did you take?
I started out in a fairly run-of-the-mill comprehensive, and I never actually thought I'd go into human resources as a job. I had a chance to move up the career ladder and became head of human resources at a professional organisation. At that time, they were actually looking for people to be lay members of the employment tribunals. They were looking for people who could bring the work environment into the courts, so that when we're sitting on the panel of 3, both myself and the other lay member can actually tell the judge how things work in the actual work environment. As I got more into my career and into the job that I do here, it made me want to study more and more. So when I took my career break with the children, I did a degree then and was lucky enough to end up with a first-class degree in business administration. I also then did some lecturing, but because I always want to know what I'm talking about is correct, I did an MEd, and that was to help me with the lecturing. And then when the children were old enough for me to get back to school, I went back into human resources at a time when the employment law changed significantly. So because of that, I went to do a master's in law and employment relations, and it meant that I had to study in depth how employment law was working. And a lot of people depended on me to get it right because my employers didn't want to end up in the tribunals because of practices that their managers had undertaken. And in a 35-year career, I can actually say that I'm lucky enough that none of my employees ever came to tribunal. So we must have been doing something right.
What tips would you give to somebody who wanted to become a judge or lay member?
If you want to become a lay member or a judge, just go for it. Don't let people tell you that it's something that you can't do. I happened to be in a very bad car crash, and as a result of that, I lost my job simply because I couldn't work every day, the travelling to work, the travelling around. But there's a blessing behind every disappointment. And the fact that I became disabled meant that when they were looking for people to work in the other chamber as disability qualified members, I could actually talk about how I'd had to change my life, the adjustments that I needed, and something that's very simple to you and I, perhaps doing your buttons up, is not so easy to somebody who's got really bad arthritis or MS. So don't let any disability put you off saying that you can't achieve. There's always a role for you. And if you do have the experience of disability, if you've worked in a field of discrimination, they are the sorts of things that you can bring into the court because you're able to give live and real examples of what you've actually either gone through yourself or that you've worked with other people that have done that.
You've achieved a lot academically. Do all lay members have qualifications, or is experience equally important?
It's not necessarily about having a huge educational background. It's more about you as an individual. It's about genuinely liking people, about having the experience in the workplace that is relevant to the type of law that you want to go into. You've got to have empathy so that you can understand what people are telling you, but not put yourself into their place. So understanding the wider picture and, coming to some sort of conclusion about it. It's an interesting role, and once you've got the experience of being a judicial officer, it means that you can do a lot of other things.
Is the work varied?
There are so many different aspects to court: the immigration, war pensions, traffic courts, disability, social entitlement. There are so many aspects of law that just need people with a bit of common sense, a bit of understanding, the ability to gather information and make sense of it and make a decision. And, that could be for you.
Is sitting as a lay member rewarding?
At the end of every single case, you get a buzz because you've cut through maybe 6 lever arch files stuffed with information. You've understood the facts of the case. You can see what's happened on both sides. You've had that discussion with your colleagues, and you know that the decision that you've come to is the right one. You've had no preconceived ideas, and the judgment that you've made is legally sound. That's the reward, knowing that you are part of something that is helping to change society, really, because you're dealing with things that are unacceptable and making legal judgments about them.
In the Employment Tribunal, lay members and judges reach decisions collectively. Diane has a career background in human resources and personal experiences of disability. We've heard how she works in a number of different courts. I hope this gives you an insight into the wide variety of judicial roles. In the next film, I'm meeting a judge from the Crown Court, which deals with crime.